Good evening. This is my final attempt at making this video. This is now the 7th attempt with endless technical problems and my 4 cats attempting to sabotage the making of this. I'd like to read you a bedtime story. This is based on my new novel entitled When Time Stood Still. This is an extract from chapter 3, The New Normality. Just to let you know, it's a sci-fi / thriller / make of it what you will. It contains just about everything you can imagine, from alien invasion, pandemic, war, military coups, yes, military intervention, climate disaster, and some love just thrown in. Anyway, this is an extract from chapter 3, The New Normality. Sit back, lie back, close your eyes and enjoy. The chaos at the airport was worsening by the second. People shouting, babies crying, fights breaking out in the queues as desperate people fought for the last seats out the country. I was grateful for the peaceful, grounding presence by my side. This wise, elderly gentleman who had evidently already lived so many lifetimes. How do I explain this sudden, mysterious apparition? Effie and I had decided to keep as far away as possible from the mayhem, partly to escape the stress, but also in case of potential violence. We were still grieving from the goodbyes and the shock of what was happening. We found a quiet corner, one available bench from which we could observe the madness without being a part of it. From what seemed like nowhere, a presence appeared by my side, an elderly gentleman dressed casually in white, with piercing blue eyes and a shock of snow-white hair. He sighed deeply and shrugged with amused exasperation. My dear, these poor, uninformed people, so little they know. We had always wished for a new age, and now we have to seize the opportunity. But in order for the new to enter, we must say goodbye to the old in all its guises. But what is the new? Just because something is new, it does not necessarily mean it is an improvement, unless we endeavour to make it so. We will be forced to make a decision. Which path will we choose? And remember, with change comes resistance. In a short space of time, this will be over. Effie and I stared at him in amazement, yet perhaps not as surprised as we would have been in different circumstances. Weird had become the new normal. Do I know you? I asked politely. Not yet, but you will. My name's Xanthias, and you are Sky and Effie. The pleasure is all mine. Effie nudged me and whispered urgently in my ear, Mum, this guy is weird. He's freaking me out. I think he's been stalking us. He must have heard our names at the check-in desk. Xanthias smiled kindly with compassion at the fearful look on Effie's face. You are correct, my dear. I did overhear your names, but I was already waiting for you. I knew you'd be here today. You are both wise, intuitive females. And while your conscious minds will be desperately analysing and criticising everything I say, something will resonate deeply within your subconscious minds, and more importantly, within your superconscious minds, within your higher self. That part of you who knows exactly who I am and why I'm here. Both of you throughout your lives have been different in some way. Sorry, cat, please move out of the way. He's about to sabotage us again, yeah. You have picked up on signs and symbols that most humans have not. This has often made life difficult for you, leading you to doubt your own ability and mental stability. I am here today to assure you that you are both on the right path, your individual paths. You have correctly detected the shift that is coming. He paused for a moment and studied our faces. We were both frozen in shock and puzzlement. And yet he was right. There was a part of me that wasn't remotely fazed, as if I recognised him or had known him before, from a former life. It was such a distinctly bizarre feeling, yet simultaneously liberating. Neither of us spoke, and so he continued. I know you have felt this is all a simulation, Sky, and you are correct. It is. Remember Event 201, October 2019 in New York? The big players were present. That was the preparation. And yes, 1 month later, the Chinese doctor spoke out about Wuhan. Nothing in this world is ever coincidence. Everything has a meaning and a sequence of events, though often it is too much for the human mind to compute. Those of you who speak out and attempt to open the eyes of the world will be hounded. It will be a witch hunt. At first seemingly harmless, but later it will become more dangerous and you will be at risk, and then you will have to choose. You lived through this in medieval times, and occasionally you get a vague recollection of such things. You are part of a race of enlightened beings, just as back then those who challenged the all-encompassing power of the church were perceived as heretics. You will both be loved and hated, revered and destroyed. Effie and I let out a combined, "What the fuck?" And yet, strangely enough, Effie leaned in to hear more, no longer cowering in fear at this random stranger telling us the story of how our lives would unfold. The blackout is imminent. Look to space. Yes, the CME will impact Earth, but mark my words, it will not just be a natural catastrophic event. The CIA prepared for this moment a long time ago and will ensure it coincides with a natural event to conceal what has been planned at CERN in Switzerland. Remember, it is already written in the soul of the world. The frightened, vulnerable people in confinement are already fearful of the great pandemic. They've been weakened. They look to authority to guide them, compliant and unaware that they've been blindsided. This is when the transition takes place. All systems of communication will be down, at least for the general population, but not for the deep state. You must understand this. The military coups will be carried out quietly, often without force, in many countries across the globe. And when the masses emerge into this new world, things will have changed forever. The new normality will begin. Unfortunately, Xanthias was stopped in mid-sentence as our flight departure was suddenly announced. I was anxious and didn't want the meeting to end. I felt I needed to understand so much more. This was also mind-blowing and life-altering. Right here in the middle of the airport, how could I possibly get on a flight now after hearing all of this? "Mum, hurry. We can't miss this flight out now." Effie pulled me up, and the urgency in her voice jolted me back to my senses. Xanthias took my hand. "It is time. Go with peace in your heart. But remember, before you make any important decisions, be still. Trust your higher sense. It will always guide you. In the coming days you will encounter many obstacles, fire, water, and the great pestilence. Just trust your inner strength and inner guide, and you will always choose the right path. Peace be with you." Before I could respond, he turned and walked away as Effie began to pull me in the opposite direction. We ran breathlessly across the airport towards the departure gates. My head and chest were pounding with a combination of exhaustion, stress, and what had become a permanent state of shock. We slowed down as we saw the queue before us. "Mum, I've got so many questions. I didn't understand everything Xanthias was talking about. Like CERN, CME, heretics. There was just so much stuff." I stopped and placed my hand luggage on the floor. "Come here." I pulled my daughter towards me and hugged her so hard she winced. "We've got a very long journey ahead of us. I'll explain everything. Just remember, no matter what happens along the way, I'm still the same person, your mother. And I love you so much. Don't ever forget that, no matter what anyone else says. That's all for now. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're curious, and I hope you're intrigued and wondering what will happen next. Thanks a lot, and watch this space for the next extract.